Well, hello and welcome back to Inner Work with Marianne Walker. I am your host, and I help women to break free of their people-pleasing tendencies and just start living life on their own terms again, which is exactly why I have invited Tricia Corso here. Thank you so much for coming on, Tricia.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, I'm excited too. Yeah, so Tricia and I have been mutuals on social media for quite some time now, and I just love her work. She totally resonated. I think we have very similar audiences. So
Yep.
if you like my stuff, you'll like her stuff and vice versa. But she has had a really unique life experience that I thought all of us would benefit from just hearing about. So, Tricia, would you mind telling us a little bit about you?
Of course. So my name's Tricia Corso. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a lifestyle coach. I currently live in Denver, Colorado, but I'm originally from New York, which is all part of my story that you'll hear about. And yeah, I've been a therapist for about 10 years and been coaching for a couple of years now. That's been a new thing for me. But yeah, similarly to what you said, I work with ambitious women to define success on their own terms and build a life that reflects it. So it's a lot of just working with women in finding their truth, their voice, what their real desires are, and giving them permission to finally get after it.
Yeah. And I'm assuming from what I know about you that it's your story that kind of led you to work with that group of women. Would you say that that's true, or how did you find yourself working with this group?
Yes. It is part of that, which took me some time to figure that out of, why I felt so passionate or driven to help this specific niche or woman experiencing these certain things. But basically, yeah, I felt like I did all the things I was supposed to do, checked all the boxes, went to college, got my master's, graduated with my master's, applied to jobs. I was living in New York at the time. And something just like didn't feel right. I was like, I did all the things I was supposed to do, but why am I feeling off, or I'm not feeling as fulfilled or as happy as I thought I would at this point? Cause I'm like, now it's kind of open ended on what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that just made me think a lot more of where I was living. I love New York, but it was not like the lifestyle necessarily that I'm drawn to. And I had a friend from college moved to Colorado, and I had visited her a couple of times, and I was like, wow, this place is beautiful. So
Yeah.
much nature. It was slower paced. It wasn't as expensive. So a lot of things where I was like, okay, this might be something that I'm feeling called to go after. And so I applied to jobs in Colorado as well and ended up getting a job offer there and accepted that because I was able to like live independently, have that connection to nature that's super important to me, not be as fast paced or stressed. Like I lived in the city, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was like constantly anxious of like, am I going to make the subway? Why is this person walking so slow? I got to get to this place by this time. And I just felt tense while I was there. So I needed to slow down, and I recognized that. So yeah, I want to help women do more of that because it's hard work. You have to fight through a lot of different beliefs or, patterns or things that might be holding you back.
Yeah. I think so many people are going to relate to that feeling of, well, I did everything I was supposed to. I
Mhm.
checked the boxes. I'm still not happy. And I think it's interesting, and I just want to really put a spotlight on it, that you had some signs internally that, okay, well, something's not quite right. Like when you look on paper, I've checked all the boxes.
Mhm.
I'm supposed to be happy now.
Yeah.
But that you started to recognize for yourself, I'm feeling anxious. And maybe what I need is different than
Mhm.
what boxes I have checked on paper. And I'm curious for you when it comes to the supposed tos and the shoulds. Who wrote your list? Because it's different for everybody, right? Whose rule
Yeah.
book were you following?
That's a good question because a lot of the work that I do with my clients is like, whose voice are you listening to right now? Who is actually
Mm-hmm.
speaking? Is it you, or is it someone else who taught you that, or somewhere and you learned this from? Like, is it actually you? Do you actually believe what you're telling yourself right now? So yeah, it wasn't my voice that was
Yeah.
telling me these things. I think, I'm a very motivated, passionate, goal oriented person. I don't think that has changed. So I knew I wanted to do all the things up until that point. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get my master's. I wanted to do these things, and I was,
Mhm.
like, really excited about it. It was just at the end, it was like, "Okay, now I'm supposed to, like, find a job," and the jobs that I was getting offered or that I was being exposed to, I was like, "This does not excite me. This is not something that makes me feel good." But I was like, "But I'm supposed to stay in New York. That's where my family is. That's where my friends are. That's where my life is. So,
Mhm.
okay, maybe I'm just supposed to do this. And maybe if I take this job, it'll feel better or things will get better and all of that." And I mean, I really had to pay attention to myself because I am typically a person that, like, I can, like, get through things, push through, which
Mhm.
also similar to my clients of push through, get stuff done, do what you gotta do, and you're gonna figure it out and you're gonna be fine. And I was low energy, not motivated. I was really not feeling good, which was, like, very unlike me. So I really knew something was off. And
Mm.
that's sort of, again, what made me get curious of like, okay, but like maybe this isn't what I want to do. So again, I like allowed myself to just expand it a little bit further of like, I'm just gonna apply to jobs in Colorado and see what happens. Like, what harm is doing? Like, what's gonna happen if I do that?
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, because it's interesting to kind of identify, okay, who am I putting in charge of my decision making right now? Because sometimes it's, faith, community, parents, friends, just the local culture. Like we just give so much weight to what other people, I said, well, all my friends are here. So of
Mhm.
course I should stay here. So I'm really curious because I work with, a lot of the people
Mhm.
pleasers. How was it for you when you told them that, hey, I'm actually feeling led to go somewhere else?
Yeah. So I grew up in an Irish Italian household. Family is like number one. We're very close. No one left like the tri state area. Everyone extended is all kind of there. So I would say it was harder to tell family versus friends. Family, I think that is what a big block was for me. I was like, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to disappoint
Hmm.
my people pleasing stuff, right? Of like, I don't want to disappoint them. I don't
Hmm.
want I don't want their feelings to be hurt. I felt a lot of guilt of how am I gonna leave them? What if something happen all the things that
Hmm.
go on in your brain. So at first I would say it took time for them
Hmm.
to be on board with this.
Yeah.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, my family wants me to be happy and they want me to do what makes me feel happy and they're going to support that. So I'm really lucky in that regard. But it's not to say that there were multiple conversations and lots of time, like even after moving, right? That it was still
Hmm.
happening where they had to adjust and get used to the change as well as me, but that they, it was like allowing the discomfort of like, yeah, this isn't going to feel good for them. It's probably gonna be mixed emotions for me because it's scary to move and pick up and go to a completely new place, but
Yeah.
they were, you know, weren't the most excited about it, but ultimately, I think it was, "I will support you if this is what you want to do, and also just so you know, I'm really upset that you're leaving." So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think so many people are going to be resonating with that. Even if they aren't going to be moving across the country, I think a lot of people are at a time in their lives where they're thinking, I've checked all the boxes and something just isn't right. And
Mhm.
something's got to give. And I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to rock the boat, but I need to start actually living. I can't just keep going through the motions. And like you said, feeling anxious, feeling low energy. I think that those are some very common signs that something's got to change. Like your baseline shouldn't be clear down here, right? Like we got to
Yep.
kind of bring it up a bit and find that joy. And I love that you were able to create that for yourself. And I know that you had thought ahead on this, and we've kind of talked
Mhm.
about this conversation, and that you have 3 lessons that you've really learned through your experience. And I am just so excited for that. So let's just jump on in. What's the first lesson that you'd
Yeah.
like to share with listeners?
So I kind of mentioned a little bit of just like the guilt part of it. I think guilt comes
Yeah.
up so much for people who are people pleasers, for people who are like have the perfectionist tendencies, the people who are constantly thinking about other people before themselves.
Hmm.
working through the guilt or pushing through it in the sense of I'm not going to not do this thing so that I don't feel guilty, right? I'm still going to do the thing even though I feel guilty doing it.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that part of being able to not allow it to totally overwhelm or cloud your voice or your judgment or your decisions of, yes, like, accept, like, I'm gonna feel guilty. I'm not here to be like, nope, like, if you just do the thing, you're not gonna feel guilty if you just make the decision or do the thing that you wanna do for yourself. Guilt won't come up. No, it's going to. It's just being able to recognize, like, I'm not gonna let it overtake my
Mhm.
choices, my voice, my decisions, my truth, and
Mhm.
kinda talk yourself through it in that sense of, okay, yeah, I feel guilty. And also, I'm actually living a more aligned life, and that feels really good for me. And how can I let go of some of that guilt? I mean, for me, it was moving across the country, right? So it was, how am I going to spend or plan time with my family? How often am I going to communicate with it? Like, sort of like, if I'm
Mhm.
not going to see them as much, like maybe I need to be more intentional with my time with them. So I'm like less guilty because I'm like, oh, I have these plans coming up with them.
Mhm.
So I don't need to feel as guilty, but just, and I'm trying to think of other examples of, I don't know, maybe you are someone who you want to go back to school for something else, or you want to change a career, but you're feeling guilty because you're like, well, if I do that, then my partner's going to have to maybe take on more of this load, or things are going to have to change at home because my work schedule is going to be different, or this or that. So, like, rather than even think about the disruption or how guilty I'm going to feel towards disrupting another person's life, I'm not even gonna think about doing it. But it's being able to say, "I'm gonna feel guilty," accept that you're gonna feel guilty, but then do something about it versus allow it to take over.
I love that. So the note that I'm making for myself is be a disruptor in the name of authenticity.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
yes. Mhm.
'Cause as you were talking, I think too many of us assume that if we feel guilty, it means we're doing something wrong.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And you just saying, "No, you're gonna feel guilty, and it's okay," because you've probably been conditioned to not rock the boat, to make
Yep.
sure that nobody else experiences a negative emotion, but meanwhile, you're not feeling a lot of positive emotions right now.
Mhm.
And so that is such a mind flip to think that
Yeah.
I'm going to feel guilty, and it doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong. In fact, it can
Mhm.
mean that I'm living a more aligned life.
Yep.
Because too
Yeah.
many people, I think if I feel guilty, it means I'm out of alignment, because
Yep.
me to be in alignment means I don't make anybody upset, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And I think, like you saying, I mean, disruption, authenticity are, they're all intertwined with all of these things, but
Mhm.
that it's a matter of doing the work of, I can trust myself, I can rely on myself. I feel confident in who I am, in that this choice is really important to me, and I feel that. I like recognize that within myself. And coming back to that too, right? Of, we can still mess up and do things, and maybe
Mhm.
there is guilt there, but we can also resolve that, right? Of, we can apologize, we can address it, we can figure it out. But it's more about the guilt related to, like, if you're just being you and listening to yourself and being honest with yourself and making choices aligned to that, like, why are we holding on to that guilt? Because what's wrong with doing that? Why is that a bad thing? Which goes back to all the beliefs specifically women believe, right? Of, I think, which is another thing, another lesson down the road that
Yeah.
they're all connected.
They are all
Yeah.
interconnected, but I love what you're saying here about how really there's no reason to feel guilty for living in a way that brings you joy,
Yep.
is what it comes down to. Like knowing that, okay, the guilt is just my conditioning,
Mhm.
but really there's no reason to feel guilty, acknowledging that this isn't working for me and this will feel so much better for me, for my nervous system. It's what's gonna bring me joy right now, and that's okay. It's okay to accept the things that actually bring you joy,
Mhm.
rather than shrinking yourself so that other people don't experience the negative emotion, right?
Right.
Like missing you, which really, that's
Yes.
always a funny one.
Yeah.
So I think, well, don't you want people to miss you? Isn't
Yeah.
that a good thing?
Right. And if someone misses you, they also want you to be happy. They want you
Right.
to do what feels good for you. If someone really feels or cares about you in that way, they're not gonna
Mhm.
be like, "No." stay small so that you don't feel guilty about upsetting me. They're not going to, like, they genuinely do not want that. Of course, they're going to miss you, and that's a really lovely thing. But
Mhm.
ultimately, they do want you to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that is such a beautiful segue into number 2. You gave me a
Yes.
sneak peek, so I already know what's coming. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so tell us your number 2.
Um, so yes, I recognized how my people pleasing was keeping me small. And that was something that I had to like actively and intentionally start to shift for myself, where recognizing how pleasing others was abandoning myself, right? Was abandoning what I wanted for me, what was important to me, what my values were, which might be different from other people around me, and that being okay.
Mhm.
But that when I'm people pleasing, right, or when I'm trying to take care of everyone else, or I'm trying to make decisions based off of other people or other people's feelings, I'm being inauthentic. People pleasing is a form of inauthenticity, right?
Mm.
Because we are not showing up as our true selves when we are responding or acting in accordance to other people.
Hmm.
And I kind of in my example, right, of staying small would have been staying in New York, taking this job I wasn't excited about, probably being financially stressed, not really feeling very independent or actually enjoy my life, living in a concrete jungle of not being in
Mhm.
nature and all of that, where that wasn't what was going to make me happy. And if I'm not paying attention to those cues or things and staying small, I'm not going to feel fulfilled. And
Mm.
it is going to impact my relationships, right? So I think something that comes up a lot is people please to try to like to keep the peace and to make
Yeah.
sure people are okay and to try to keep relationships good or like kind of like even keel or whatever it is. But it's actually not authentic relationship. So when you stop doing that, you actually have like deeper, more meaningful connections with yourself, but also the people again that want to be around you and love you, right? And there is
Mhm.
difficulty because you might lose some people in that battle. Where when you start like, not people pleasing as much or maybe setting more boundaries or doing things for you, there might be some people that aren't okay with that, and that can be hard and scary for people, but in my opinion, it's worth it to live a more authentic life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very beautifully said. I was taking notes the whole time you were talking because that had so many little gems in it. But I appreciated you saying that people pleasing was keeping you small because it was forcing you to self-abandon.
Mhm.
Because when you're prioritizing other people's values, you're not prioritizing your own,
Yep.
which means now you're not living authentically.
Mhm.
And I thought it was interesting too. So many people I work with, and I'm sure it's the same for you, but they're craving to have depth in
Yep.
relationship. Like they want these kind of juicy conversations. They
Yep.
love it.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time getting it. And
Mhm.
I think that you totally nailed it with, yeah, we think that we're going to be getting that depth through people pleasing and prioritizing other people's wants and wishes. But the real depth comes through living authentically and letting yourself be seen.
Mhm. Yeah. Vulnerability, that's another one that is often really hard to really embrace. And
Mhm.
part of being vulnerable is like being honest and open and authentic to the people around you, expressing yourself, communicating how you're feeling, telling them if they bothered you in some way or did something that upset you. And the people that are meant to be there are going to show up for you and are going to love you. And you're
Mhm.
going to feel so much. It's going to be hard. Like, these aren't easy things. Like, these are hard things to do. And they might be hard conversations or hard, like, actions to take. But
Mhm.
ultimately, when you do it, it's going to feel so much better. It really is.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you touched on, yeah, some people might leave.
Hmm.
And I think that that's what keeps us in that people pleasing mode is right. But they can't leave.
Yep.
I don't want them to abandon me. So then we abandon themselves. But like reminding yourself that, okay, they might leave me. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I'm going to stop leaving myself behind. I'm going to
Right.
stop self abandoning and live for me.
Yeah, and why are we gonna put energy into someone and not ourselves, right? If
Hmm.
it is someone that is gonna leave or not show up for you in the way that you need to show up, that you want someone to show up for you, or that it's not like reciprocated, because often the people pleasers are the ones that are showing up for friends and are being really present and are really trying to help or nurture or take care
Mhm.
of who, their friends, family, whoever it is. And it's important that that's reciprocated. And if you
Mhm.
start dialing it back because you're putting more energy into yourself, or you're being more cognizant of how you want to spend your time, or your what it is that you want to do, and then
Mhm.
that person's like, what the heck? Then it is worth probably reevaluating that relationship. But that you're then going to have more authentic, deep, meaningful relationships with yourself and the people that you both choose, right, to be
Mhm.
around.
So true. Yep, that was very well said. Yep, I love it.
Yeah.
I have no notes on all that. That was beautiful. So what's the third lesson that you learned through this experience?
Yeah. So I think something underneath all these things that we've been talking about has just
Mhm.
been these unspoken agreements, beliefs that specifically women, I think, are taught, are they learn them, hear them all over the place, of from society, from culture, from family,
Mhm.
of, what we're supposed to do or what we should do, or how a woman is supposed to show up or act or be. And for me, like, and similar to what we talked to before, of whose voice are you listening to, right? Is it these shoulds and supposed tos, or, is it social media? Is it, well, if you're not married and have kids by this age, something's wrong with you, right? Like, where are we
Mhm.
getting all of this from? Like, and is it my voice or is it other people's? And actually deciphering and making that distinction between the two, right? So that work is hard because you're unlearning things that no longer serve you or actually are important or significant, or things that you value, and then relearning the things that you do think are important and do think that you value. So for me, I'm basically the only one in my family that ever left the tri-state area.
Mhm.
That was a big disruption and that was a big deal. Everyone else, and that's what they want to do, but it's everyone else was like, I grew up here, my family's here, I stay here. That's it. That's
Mhm.
what I do. But that didn't feel right for me. That didn't feel like
Right.
something I wanted to do. So how all of that plays into all of these things, I think, when we talk about people pleasing and we talk about guilt and we talk about, these roles that we play, I think women have a lot of hats that we feel like we have to wear. I always think of Barbie movie, the big speech of,
Uh-huh.
we're supposed to do, like, women are supposed to do this and that and this and that. And we're supposed to be, we're supposed to be loud, not too loud. Like, all of these things that it feels impossible at times, of
Mhm.
how are we supposed to maintain and keep up with all of those things at the same time? I don't, it is very impossible, but we try because we think that's what we're supposed to do. But it's really like, well, what do I actually want? Like, what do I actually want? If I try to quiet all of that, quiet all the external noise, quiet all the external voices of what I've been hearing for my whole life, and like actually take a moment to be like, well, what's important to me? What are my values? And
Mhm.
then acting from that place, that is key and is still key for me to this day. I think all of these things I have to constantly be reminding myself of these lessons that I've learned. It's a constant work in progress. But this one in particular is, I'm 35, not married. I don't have kids. I'm living on my
Mhm.
own and I'm living away from my family.
Yeah.
And I have to think, I have to constantly remind myself, like I said, of just, okay, but this is you living a fulfilled, aligned life, because this is where you're
Yeah.
at and this is where you want to be. And sometimes those things creep in, but I push them away.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because one of the questions I was going to ask you was how do you identify your own voice when you've been listening to other people's? But then you explained that beautifully that no, it really just means looking at your own values.
Hmm.
And I think once your eyes get opened up to, okay, what is it I'm valuing right now? And do my
Yeah.
actions match what I actually value? Like,
Yeah.
okay, right now, am I really valuing what it is that I need? Or am I just valuing somebody else's comfort level right now? But
Hmm.
being honest about, okay, what am I actually valuing right now? And do I actually value it? Or is that something I inherited or
Yep.
something that I just have
Mm.
assumed is an expectation?
Yep.
But getting clear on those values is so powerful. and helps you to identify your voice when you've been conditioned to only listen to everybody else's voice.
Yes, that's like a big chunk of work that I do with my clients is
Mhm.
like, we got to figure out. We got to start from somewhere. We got to figure out what your values are. And like you said, making choices, actions in alignment with those things, seeing how that feels for you, and being able to come back to yourself, right? Because I think something that comes up that I've seen a lot with women and also myself at some point throughout the process, right, is that sense of self can be really cloudy. You're like, "Who am I?" Without describing, like, all of the roles that you play, right?
Mhm.
And I think for women, it's like, "I'm a therapist, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend," or
Mhm.
people being like, "I'm a mom, I'm a teacher," whatever it is, but, like, that being their identity, but it's like, no, we can go even deeper of what do you actually value as an individual? Take all of your roles away from you. What is it that's actually important to you? And giving yourself space to think and ask those questions because for so long, it's just been like, well, if this is my role, this is how I'm supposed to act.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I think that this kind of ties in beautifully with what you talked about as we opened this episode, which is that you're going to be uncomfortable either way. Right? We think, but if I go do something for myself, I'm going to feel guilty. It's like, okay, but right now you're feeling unfulfilled. You're
Mhm.
feeling inauthentic. You're feeling resentful because you're not doing what it is that you want to do.
Yep.
So, do you want to feel those feelings, or do you want to feel a little bit uncomfortable as you try something new and try
Mhm.
something that's more in alignment with who you are and what you value?
Yep.
That, yeah, you've been uncomfortable. You already know what it is like to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But there's another kind of discomfort that can actually be quite healing for you.
Yes. I think for sure a big takeaway is like, this is uncomfortable work, right? I say to clients all the time, like, this is the hard work. The easy
Mhm.
option is for you to keep on going as you're going and just like maintaining status quo, not disrupt it. Like that's the easy way to go about it because
Mhm.
you are staying small and like, yep, maybe you're not as happy as fulfilled or whatever it is, but you're not disrupting things and like you're not having the discomfort, right? And that's
Mhm.
easier. Um, quotes. But
Yeah.
in the long run, this is the work it's hard work, and in the long run, this
Yeah.
is typically where people wanna be of, "Okay, I need to do this work so that long term, I do feel more fulfilled, or I do feel more aligned, or I do feel happy," and things shift and change, right? I tell everyone
Mhm.
just because these are your values now doesn't mean that these are your values forever. And these are the things that you
Mhm.
constantly have to, 2 years from now, your values could be different. But it's just a matter of like you're actually asking yourself these questions and giving yourself space to ask yourself these questions because you are going to have to cause disruption. There's no way around that. And when we're talking about people pleasers and women and nurturers and caretakers and perfectionists, that
Mhm.
is such a hard thing to overcome of like, what do you mean disrupting? Can I just like do everything and everyone still is happy or feels really, it's like, unfortunately, it's just not the reality.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, and I don't know if it's similar for you, but I know in my practice, sometimes I'll work with women and they're like, "Well, I'm just not feeling super fulfilled and I don't even know why."
Hmm.
Like they've never actually questioned, what do I value? What do I want? And they don't recognize yet that that's why they're not feeling fulfilled, that there's something more, that they can just make these tiny tweaks, like speaking up when they want something or advocating for themselves, and that can reignite that fire. But it just takes a little bit of nudging. Let's say.
Yes. I small steps is
Yeah.
always key. You can't to try to make these, and I think sometimes that can really um make discourage people in doing it because they're like, well, this just feels like really big and overwhelming, and like I don't think I could just automatically make this shift. And it's like, what if we just take it slow and see,
Yeah.
like, let's try this, let's try that, let's put these things into practice, see how that feels, and we're only going to reinforce things that feel good for you. If things don't feel
Mhm.
good for you, you don't do it, right? And allowing yourself to figure out what those things are and actually have awareness of that. I think also it's a matter of sometimes there's when you're saying I don't really know why I don't feel fulfilled. Sometimes it's just like that self-awareness of
Mhm.
actually paying attention day to day, being like, how do I feel in this moment? How do I feel in this situation? What's coming up for
Mhm.
me there? To be like, oh, this is the area that I'm not feeling good in because I'm actually paying attention and like giving
Mhm.
myself the time to think about that of this is why I'm not
Yeah.
feeling good. And then being able to work with it from there. I think often it's just we're not giving ourselves the time to actually think about what's wrong.
So true, which I think that that's where, coaching and therapy can be so valuable is maybe that's your first step, is
Mhm.
just booking a call with me or Tricia
Yeah.
and saying, "Hey, I don't know where to look. I don't know what's going on." And just to dedicate space, you setting the intention
Yeah.
to create space for you to self-reflect, free from anybody that's going to tell you more shoulds. Oh, well, I have all of the answers for you, right? Like, no,
Mhm.
no, no. Like you
Yeah.
need somebody that's just going to ask you, "What's your answer? What do
Mhm.
you want?" And just making one call can make such a huge difference for people.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's the first step to it all, right? Of being like, I deserve to stop being small. I deserve to take up
Yeah.
space. I deserve this 30-minute, whatever, hour phone call to be
Mhm.
able to just talk through something. And it's just that one step, right? Of
Mhm.
and then being like, how was that? Did that feel good? Did it not feel good? Am I ready for
Yeah.
this? Am I not? But it is a matter of it. There needs to be action, right? To
Yeah.
these things. Otherwise, you are going to keep replaying or constantly like you're just going to stay in that stuck in that gray in that I'm going to keep thinking about the same thing over and over again but not do anything about it. um
Mhm.
you can stay stuck there. Things still might shift, but I think it can be really hard. I know in my experience, I needed support. I needed other people. Like I've been, whether it's therapy, coaching, whatever it is, I've needed
Mhm.
that to help me to stay accountable, to have guidance, to have support because I can get stuck in my head very easily.
Yeah. Like all of us, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna recap the 3 lessons that Trisha has shared, and I tacked a 4th one on the end because you talked quite a bit about it, and I just felt like it needed to be there.
Yes.
So the 3 lessons are learning how to just navigate and let go of guilt,
Hmm.
and as you work to come closer to yourself, acknowledging that guilt will be there and I can live authentically. And then you also talked about realizing how people pleasing really does keep us small, and to just be aware that that is a form of self-abandonment. So of course you're not feeling fulfilled.
Hmm.
And then intentionally breaking free of the unspoken agreements, recognizing that, okay, well, this isn't actually in alignment with my value system
Hmm.
and I want something different. And then the one I'm kind of pairing with that is just I take one small step towards self-advocacy. Like be
Hmm.
brave enough to just give voice to what it is that you want. So as we wrap up here, Trisha, I'm wondering like what would you like our listeners' main takeaway to be from this call?
Hmm. I I think what's kind of underneath all of this when we kind of really just draw it back is really just I'm I'm giving it, Marianne's giving it, and for you to give yourself permission to take up space.
Mm.
What and that sort of be the guiding line here of I don't need to stay small. What is it that I need to do to you deserve to take up space. You deserve to live a life that's on your terms. You deserve to live a life that feels good for you and feels fulfilling for you. And you staying small isn't going to get you there. So I think it's allowing yourself because of all the things that we just talked about, of all of the beliefs or thoughts or feelings that will keep you small, right? Or keep you in this place of I don't deserve or it's I can't disrupt. I can't
Mhm.
have to keep the peace, whatever it is, but just that knowing you deserve to take up space, period. There's doesn't need to be anything else attached to it, but just that you having time and space for yourself to figure out what feels good for you and actually doing something about it. I mean, that's we all deserve that.
Yeah. I love that. Giving yourself permission to take up space and just stop playing small. I
Hmm.
think some of us It's easy to slide into that as the default setting, right? To make yourself smaller so you don't cause those ripples,
Mhm.
but giving yourself that permission to take up space, to have wants and needs and be human
Mhm.
can make such a huge difference. That was
Yeah.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah. I it's one of the things too, I'm sure this comes up for you too, right? Of just what would you tell a really good friend of yours? Would you be like, "No, you should stay small. You should not follow what you want or your goals or what your dreams are. You should just like stay small and don't do that." No, you would never say that to your friend. So why are we saying that to ourselves?
Oh, so true, right? How many of us will like give our friends the best advice, but
Yeah.
we never give it to ourselves? We're
Right.
for some reason the exception. No, but for
Yeah,
me, I need to stay small, but everybody else can live
exactly.
large and I'll cheer them on.
Right. I'll be there for
Yes.
you as cheerleader, but I'll just be over here. I'll stay small in the corner. It's like, no, you deserve that too. And the people that love you want that for you also.
Yeah, I love that. Be your own friend, be your own cheerleader.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation, Tricia. And I know that people are going to want to continue the conversation. So, how can people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my handle is at Among Wildflowers Therapy. And then also I have a website, amongwildflowerstherapy.com. So people can find me either of those spots. If you want to book a call, you can just go to my website and there's a spot for you to just book a call there. And also if anyone wants to book a call, I'm going to offer to, if you just mention that you listened to the podcast or heard me on the podcast, we can book a free clarity call so we could focus on like one thing that you're really feeling stuck or confused about and just kind of work through it together just to give you a little taste of what that would be like for you. So yeah, there's a few ways to get in touch with me.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for offering that to the audience. I think that that's a very generous offer. So, thank you so much. And I will be sure to put all of Trisha's contact information in the show notes. You can go and follow her on Instagram, go book a free clarity call. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, Trisha.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a great conversation.
All right, well, have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.